Imagine this. You're a Mongol warrior, part of the most unstoppable army in human history. You've crushed empires from the Pacific to the gates of Europe. Defeat? You've never truly known it. But in 1232, beneath the walls of a gigantic Chinese city, you hear a strange hissing sound growing louder. Something metallic scrapes against stone. Then an iron sphere, the size of a man's head, drops through a gap in your protective screen. A shout of warning, but nowhere to run. Boom! The sky splits open. The iron doesn't just burst, it shatters into hundreds of razor-sharp fragments flying faster than arrows. Your legendary cowhide shelter, 3 layers thick, proof against stones, fire, boiling oil, disintegrates. Nothing is left, not even traces. This is not fiction. This is real history. This is the story of how one revolutionary weapon stopped the greatest military machine the world had ever seen and changed warfare forever. Welcome to the Siege of Kaifeng. Since 1211, Genghis Khan had been at war with the Jin Dynasty, the Jurchen rulers of northern China. By 1215, Beijing had fallen. The Jin retreated south and made Kaifeng, then called Bianjing, their new capital in Henan province. The war dragged on for over 20 years. By 1230, the end seemed inevitable. Under Ogedei Khan, Genghis's son, the Mongols had mastered siege warfare, giant trebuchets, siege towers, mining techniques. They even captured Chinese and Persian engineers to build better weapons. In 1232, the legendary General Subutai, veteran of campaigns from Korea to Central Europe, brought his army to Kaifeng. 2 Mongol forces under Ogedei and Tolui had already crushed the main Jin field army at the Battle of Sanfeng Mountain. When both Khans fell seriously ill, Tolui later died. Command passed to Subutai. On April 8, 1232, his forces completely surrounded Kaifeng, a siege perimeter stretching 87 kilometers around a city of over 1 million people, including roughly 40,000 defenders under Emperor Aizong. Standard Mongol doctrine: blockade the city, bombard with trebuchets, mine under the walls, wait for starvation, plague, and despair to finish the job. Subutai had done this countless times. The city would fall. It always did. But this time it was different. The Jin had known gunpowder for centuries. Fire arrows with gunpowder packets existed since at least the 11th century. Soft-cased bombs of paper or bamboo terrified enemies with noise and flames, mostly psychological weapons. But at Kaifeng, Jin engineers made a breakthrough. They put the gunpowder inside cast iron. The weapon was called Zhentianlei, heaven-shaking thunder or thunder crash bomb. The physics were brutally elegant. Gunpowder explodes inside a thick iron shell. The gases can't escape immediately. Pressure builds to hundreds of times atmospheric pressure until the iron itself fails catastrophically. The casing doesn't crack. It shatters into hundreds of jagged fragments traveling at lethal speed in every direction. This was the world's first true fragmentation weapon, the direct ancestor of every hand grenade, artillery shell, and modern explosive that followed. Historical records say the explosions could be heard 30 miles away. The blast radius scorched everything within about a 1/16 of an acre. Iron shards punched straight through Mongol lamellar armor, killing men and horses alike. Jin tactics were devastatingly smart. When Mongol siege engines approached, launched thunder crash bombs from their own trebuchets. When Mongol sappers dug tunnels under their famous 3-layer cowhide shelters, defenders lowered bombs on iron chains directly into the excavations. One detonation. The cowhide screen, which had protected sappers at dozens of previous sieges, shredded. The men inside vanished. Historical accounts note, not even a trace remained. The Mongols had never encountered anything like it. The Jin had a second weapon that truly terrified the Mongols: the Feihuoqiang, flying fire lance. These were bamboo or paper tubes, over 2 feet long, packed with gunpowder, sulfur, charcoal, saltpeter, iron fragments, and ground porcelain. When ignited, they shot jets of flame over 10 feet long, basically medieval flamethrowers, while also spraying burning shrapnel like flaming shotguns. Each soldier carried a small iron pot of hot coals to light the fuse instantly. In one famous night raid, just 450 Jin troops armed with fire lances stormed a Mongol camp, killing hundreds before the invaders could organize a defense. The Jin historical records are clear. Only two weapons truly frightened the Mongols: the thunder crash bomb and the flying fire lance. These were no longer invincible horse archers facing swords and bows. They were infantry facing weapons that turned armor into a liability and made approaching the walls suicidal. Subutai adapted. Direct assault was impossible. He tightened the blockade and waited for starvation and disease. The brutal summer of 1232 turned into a freezing winter. Inside Kaifeng, food vanished. Plague swept through the overcrowded population. People starved by the thousands. By late 1232, Emperor Aizong fled with his court to Kaizhou, leaving General Kui to negotiate surrender. On May 29, 1233, over a year after the siege began, the gates opened. The Jin Dynasty survived 2 more years, but was finally extinguished in 1234, when Mongol and Song forces captured Kaizhou. The Jin didn't win, but their weapons bought precious time. More importantly, the Mongols, masters of adaptation, immediately adopted gunpowder weapons into their own arsenal. Within decades, these technologies spread west through Mongol conquests into the Middle East and Europe. The Thunder Crash Bomb didn't save the Jin Dynasty, but it proved that even the greatest military force in history could be checked by revolutionary technology. The age of gunpowder warfare had truly begun. The world would never fight the same way again. Thanks for watching. This was the moment fragmentation weapons first appeared on the battlefield, and even the Mongol Empire had to pause. What do you think? Could modern armies handle something like this in the 13th century? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into military history, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.